by FS1 NFL analyst and Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson. Eric, let's start this conversation with you. Saquon Barkley, are we looking at a tremendous talent?
Most definitely. I'd have to say yes. And I didn't watch a lot of Saquon in college. You know, I've never, and I told you this before, I've never been big on the Penn State backs. I just never thought they'd done well in the pros. To me, the last guy that did well was Franco Harris. But when you see this guy play, I mean, the thing I like about him most is his acceleration. One thing you cannot coach in the NFL is speed.
Right.
I mean, and he has tremendous speed, tremendous cutting ability for a running back. Because people ask me, what makes you dangerous? I say my acceleration. And he has that acceleration. He can go sideways and all of a sudden cut it up right quick. You see the cuts? The cuts he's making is almost
it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's almost like he's doing a dance, like a quick dance, like boom, 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 boom. And I mean, when I say he hits it, he hits it. And I always like when the back gets in open field, he's not doing this. He's not looking back. Because I'm not worried about getting caught. You know, if you catch me, you catch me. And I think he's I don't want to say he's great because I hate to put the tag great on a rookie player. Even myself, when I had a great rookie season, but I wouldn't say I was a great player yet. You have to prove it over and over.
Okay, but when I watched you as a freshman at SMU, I could sit. This is going to be, unless you get hurt, if you stay healthy, you're going to be all-time great. Do you see all-time great already?
If he stays healthy, yeah, he could be an all-time great. If he stays healthy, but you know, he's on such a bad football team. I feel bad for him. I mean, he's on a bad football team. I don't care how great you are. If you don't have those guys up front, you know, I never have had a real great quarterback, but you know, I was able to do it. Barry Sanders never had a great quarterback, but you want that. But man, he's on a bad, and I really feel bad for him because of that. But can he be great? Most definitely.
He's been as good or better than advertised. You can understand why Dave Gettleman says he's been touched by the hands of God. Because if you watch him in the game, he does things even more spectacular in practice. So David Gettleman had an opportunity to see him before we got an opportunity to see him in a giant uniform and see what he's capable of. Yeah. But Edie, you touched on it at the end. Can he be great? Yes, but not behind that offensive line for long because he's dodging 4 or 5 people before he gets out of the backfield. And you look at how bad they are. How bad would they be if it wasn't for him? Ooh. I mean, the one that he went 55 yards on, you got to think about. It was like a 2-yard route that he juked the entire team, 5 people in the stands, and then accelerated. Because if you watch him, I don't know if I've seen too many guys that can leave their feet, and when their feet hit the ground, he's almost full speed again. That's what makes him so unbelievable, Skip. And you know, you talked about he's like either feast or famine. There are very few running backs that's ever had home run potential, Edie. You know, anytime they touch the ball at any place on the field, he can get gone in a hurry. And he's that type of a guy. And his quarterback. I mean, just think if he had a quarterback that teams had to respect. Like, we can't load this box because this quarterback going to hurt us. Man, they're like, later for you, Eli. And he's still getting the yards that he's getting, Skip, even after that one run he had.
The 50-yard?
Yeah, man, he's special. Because he can go sideways.
So you say cut sideways, and then turned it up.
He can do that.
So I'm not exactly seeing what you two are seeing, but I'm not in the Hall of Fame, so what do I know? But I've been pretty good at this, and I told you before the draft, when I watched him in the biggest games last year, Ohio State followed by Michigan State, he could not establish the run against those defenses. He couldn't pound the rock between the tackles consistently against those defenses, and I'm seeing it all over again in the NFL. Because the weird thing about Saquon is, even though he's listed at 6 feet 233, and I don't doubt that he's in the ballpark of those two numbers, 6 feet 233. Would you go 6'3"?
6'3", 225.
225. So he weighs 8 more pounds than you do, but he plays small to me. He plays like a littler back to me. His body language, when I see him in his uniform, he looks smaller than 233, and he runs smaller, which is why, to your point, he is a home run threat on every play. He's a threat to break loose on every play. But you cannot, and again, I'll give you a small break because maybe it's the line's fault, but I have not been able to see New York consistently establish the run by pounding. can't do it with McCaffrey. Do I love McCaffrey for all the little big things that he can do?
Yeah,
but he can't. He didn't have this kind of break.
Yeah, but see, Max 205.
Okay.
But Skip, you remember we saw him here? He's thick. I mean, that joker back like an offensive, like a D lineman.
Okay, so if I go through each of his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, if I go through each game and I take away the one big run, the biggest gain of the game, I get a total of 78 carries for 228 yards, which is a 2.9 yards per rush average. Okay, that's if I take away the big one. I'll just give you some examples, like the opening game. He had a big 68-yarder. If I take that away against Jacksonville, he was 17 carries for 38 yards on all the rest of them. Let's just pick another game. Saints, he had a 28-yard run. The rest of the carries, 9 for 16 total yards. How about against the Panthers? He has a 30-yard run. The rest of the carries, 14 for only 18 yards. My Cowboys did the best job on him. He had a 10-yard run, but the rest of the carries 10 for only 18 yards. Now, he catches it, too. I'm not factoring in the catches.
Right.
So I'm going to give you the catches.
Okay. But here's the thing, though, Skip. You should be even more impressed because the offensive line, he's having to be spectacular just to get off those big runs.
There you go. Look, you
But
can't-
if you give him the slightest crease or escape route, if you give him a little crack,
Oh, yeah. He can get through it.
That's what you want.
and the acceleration is extreme.
For
It
a
is
guy that
extreme.
size?
Right there. That's exactly what you want. Look, you can hold a guy down. You could hold Michael Jordan down. You could hold LeBron James down. You could hold Shannon Sharp down. But sooner or later, the big play is coming. Like you said, you know it's coming. You're just waiting for it to come, and it comes. You can't take that 60-yard away. Sometimes you have to have those that in the first half, 50 yards. You know, all you had is 50. Then all of a sudden, boom, you have a 60-yard run. Now you have a 20-yard run. That's what football is all about. It's not always about the big run, big run, big run, big run. I had some ugly games where I had 180 yards. They stuffed me for a while. I don't forget, we played the San Diego Chargers. They had stuffed me most of the day. I had a 65-yard run and put me over 150 yards. That's football. That's the sign of like I said, I don't want to say great, but a very good football player. He could be a great football player. My only concern is playing in New York behind that Giants offense.
Yeah.
I mean, because all those cuts, sooner or later, somebody's going to get that.
But all they did was go out and sign Tom Brady's best offensive lineman,
And how
his
he look?
protector, left tackle.
And how did he look?
Nate Solder.
How did he look?
Well, I don't know. He got beat down on the goal line.
And he can't at the point of attack. But we've seen guys, look at Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson first 2 years, 1750, 1750.
He was
35
different. He just hammered. That was all guts, man. I mean, it was just like physical.
But that wears you down.
It does. Well,
you'll be like my friend Earl Campbell.
So what you think they're gonna do with this kid?
Okay, so I'm seeing actually a little more Barry Sanders than I'm seeing any Eric Dickerson or.
I thought about that.
Yeah, he got the
He's
jump
got some,
cut.
not quite.
Not quite. I agree with you. I saw that
because
too.
Barry's just like off the charts.
Nobody's ever going to run like that.
No, you go, wow, you see that?
Oh, he lost 12 yards, but that was a thing of beauty.
Okay, but I'm not seeing Zeke. I'm not seeing Le'Veon. I'm not seeing your man Todd Gurley because they're bigger, stronger between the tackles where they can establish themselves, and all three are capable, especially Zeke. If you just keep pounding him, he will wear down the defense until finally they just don't want to tackle him anymore. I don't see that in Saquon.
With that offensive line, you give him an offensive line like those guys got, Skip. I believe he can do it.
My Cowboys don't have an offensive line.
Let me tell you one thing about the defensive line that they hate about a running back. If you got a guy that's fast, that's making you run this way, they have to run laterally, because those guys are pushing on him. After a while, this guy's like, man, I'm tired of chasing this little guy. And all of a sudden, that's when the big run happens.
And that's the little guy weighs 233.
Yes. To me, he's still I'm big on the big over 6 foot backs. Real 6 foot, not the 5'11" 3/4. The real 6 foot. 6 foot.
Edie, there are not a whole lot of 6'3", 225 backs coming along the board.
Right, I know.
But that's the thing. You look at him, he runs like a small back. But when he was sitting there, I said, look at that joker back on him. And he's small-waisted, he big-thighed. Oh, he can run through tackles too now, because if you see him, he jump cut, took off, lowered his shoulder, broken up. I'm like,
Earl Campbell wasn't over 6 foot tall. Earl Campbell was about 5'11".
Yeah. He
big
was
legs, thick.
Same
Not as fast as Saquon though.
But Earl wasn't jumping. Earl was running through there.
This guy has what you call the third gear. He really does, and you have to give it to him.
Yeah.
You cannot coach that speed.
His first gear is third gear.
He hits
the ball
when he hits the line, hits it quick. That was my thing. I said, just get me to the line of scrimmage unimpeded, and I'll do the rest. And that's like him.
Well,
Don't let me get hit in the back.
Well, they're not doing it. He got to dodge like 4 or 5 people, then get sideways, then get up to. I'm like, man, but like I said, if he can get some protection, just let him get, Edie, like you said, just get to the line of scrimmage. And then once that happens, you're on your own. Yeah. Wide receivers do a great job because anytime you get long runs, wide receivers going to have to do their job out on the edge, knocking people off you. But you got to get them to the line.
Quick 2 cents of advice for this young man that we did have on the show. There were a couple of times he got loose last night and he tried to get an extra 2 or 3 yards near the out of bounds by trying to run over a DB. And he took a couple of shots that you just can't take. He's not going to last if he wants to engage. And you know why he does it? He's such a great kid. He's all-time coachable. He's going to try to run through the brick wall.
When you're a rookie, you try to prove yourself. You try to prove yourself.
It's funny you say that. That happened to me in St. Louis playing against the Cardinals. I was on the sideline. I'm trying to push for more yards. After the play was over, John dropped it because it was the goal. The first down yard was way down there. John said, hey, come here. He said, He said, know when to go out of bounds and know when it's enough. And sometimes you just have to be smart.
That's my position.
And
coach.
he was Mr. Student Body Right at USC.
Hey,
Saquon's a rookie. He'll learn.
Put that blink on. Blink him. My tight end coach told me, hey, son, know when the journey's over. Hey, they putting them Rydell's on you. You only got so many of those in you.
You got so many hits.
So I'm going to say this one more time. I am impressed enough with this young man, even though he plays the running back position as opposed to the quarterback. I think the Giants made the right pick in going with him over Darnold, over Rosen, over...
he's the best running back in the NFC East.
He is.
Huh? Best running back in the NFC East.
Hey, well, you didn't deal with my point. Why did you change the subject? I'm taking Saquon over those other 3, not over Baker Mayfield, but I'm taking him over those other 3 quarterbacks. I just don't love any of the 3 of them. I don't.
I know, but do you like Eli?
I like Joshua. Yeah.
Do you like Eli?
No, but I'm just saying, if you make me make a choice of this kid versus those other 3 quarterbacks left on the board at that point, I'm going to go with this kid.
But you got to keep Eli then.
Okay, well, then I got to wait till next year.
But you say there's nothing coming out next year.
That's the way it's shaking out right now, unless I'm missing something.
You know what? I know why you like that. Because you don't want them to have a quarterback. Because you know when a team get a quarterback like old Walker to him, you in trouble.
I told you.
Is the Cowboys in trouble?
He already know.
I told you Baker Mayfield, I'm taking him number 1. And if he had been there at number 2, I would have taken him over Saquon, for sure. He will be more valuable.
Oh, the quarterback is always more valuable.
Unless you can't play.
Yeah.
It's a couple of them, too.
Yes.
Eric, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Will the Cowboys offense somehow find its way against the mighty Jags defense? We'll discuss it coming up.
No.